Chris Jericho knocked out in a real fight with a WWE star. Jeff Hardy upset with AEW. And my review of AEW Dynamite, Homecoming. Next week will be AEW Dynamite, Far Away From Home. I'm Oli Davis, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
In 2021, Chris Jericho released a book called The Complete List of Jericho, a compilation of his notes on every single pro wrestling match he had in the first 30 years of his career, a one-of-a-kind documentation of 2,722 bouts in the ring. But it might be time to release the revised and updated one, as it's been reported he's had quite a few matches behind the scenes too, along with his infamous backstage fight with Goldberg, where Goldberg has since admitted Jericho kicked my ass, and him confronting Brock Lesnar after SummerSlam 2016, believing Lesnar had gone into business for himself and legitimately beat Randy Orton up. My favourite part of that whole story is when Lesnar reportedly kissed Jericho on the forehead and threatened him to kiss him back. It's now been reported Jericho had a real-life altercation with MVP back in 2020. During the second Jericho cruise, entitled Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea Part 2 Second Wave, Cassidy Haynes from Bodyslam.net is reporting Jericho himself, on his own cruise, got into a verbal altercation with MVP, who was days away from returning to WWE at that year's Royal Rumble. The two allegedly exchanged heated words before MVP knocked Jericho out. Sean Ross Sapp has also corroborated the cruise knockout story on X. Haynes added Jericho and MVP crossed paths again a year or two later in a hotel lobby, where they had another heated exchange, which led to Jericho hurrying to the elevator and, as the door closed, saying, "I don't fight jobbers," adding new context to the Judas by Fozzy lyric, "and I will drag you down and sell you out. Run away." That incident was reported on in 2022 by Fightful and the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Apparently MVP, who was visiting friends who work for AEW at a hotel after a show, Jericho approached him to discuss their issues. MVP invited him to discuss it outside, which is when Jericho allegedly got on an elevator and said he doesn't fight jobbers. Run away! MVP himself tweeted at the time, "Even when they get the story right, they get the details wrong. Gotta love the dirt sheets." Meanwhile, Jeff Hardy's decided to just vent his frustrations on air, in front of the scenes. Following a promo on Rampage where Jeff said, "Somebody needs to get us on AEW Dynamite so we can boost those ratings," he's posted the card for the AEW Dynamite Homecoming special episode on Instagram with the caption, "We, the Hardys, will not be appearing on this live show called AEW Dynamite. We, the Hardys, are stuck in the dimension of AEW Rampage." This could be part of a new disgruntled veteran heel character for Hardy, or legitimate frustration over the brothers' minimised role since Jeff joined the promotion. At one point, they looked likely to win the AEW Tag Team Championships, but Jeff found himself suspended just 5 months after debuting for being arrested for driving under the influence. AEW appears to not trust pushing Jeff as a singles or tag wrestler since. Pro Wrestling has taken over our board gaming channel No Rolls Bar today with the Crokinole Rumble. Here's a tease.
This Thursday, the 11th of January, we are going to be playing Crokinole, but not as you know it. We shall be playing a Battle Royale style version of Crokinole, where we're going to be eliminating one another, and every 1.5 minutes, a new competitor shall enter the Crokinole Rumble. So join us on the 11th of January at 9 a.m. Pacific, midday Eastern, and 5 p.m. GMT to see who will win the Crokinole Rumble. And the winner of this Crokinole Rumble will face off against Lord of the Board champion John Gracie in a future event to decide who is the No Rolls Barred heavyweight champion.
That's right, John. I'm gonna right some wrongs, because I'm gonna win this Crokinole tournament, and then I'm gonna come for you. I'm gonna come for you and undo what you did in Lord of the Board. I will have my revenge!
Now it's Thursday, you know what that means. My review of AEW Dynamite in about 5 minutes. Making me feel like I had to suddenly wash all my online deliveries. I've got lockdown wrestling PTSD, okay? This show took place in the unique pandemic-era staging of Daly's Place. There might as well have been no one in the crowd, though, because it felt like Hangman Page and Claudio Castagnoli were going to beat the hell out of each other for just themselves. Page jumped Claudio as he got in the ring, prompting a non-stop back-and-forth first-time ever match between the two. You got all your favourite spots. Claudio's swing, Hangman moonsaulting off the stage, and Page swigging a fan's beer. Throughout was Hangman's new level of intensity. This isn't your old self-destructive Hangman Page with no friends. It's an evolved, post-swerve, self-destructed Hangman Page with no friends. Page won with 2 buckshot lariats, positioning him for a world title challenge in an absolutely flawless match. In honor of Brody Lee, his hand-picked protege Preston Vance tagged with Orange Cassidy, Dustin Rhodes and Adam Copeland against Brian Cage, the Gates of Agony, and pandemic-era Daly's Place fixture, Lance Archer, even complete with Jake the Snake Manager outside. Lance and Cage were too meaty to coexist though, taking each other out. Like having both beef and pork on a Sunday roast, letting Vance get the win for the babyface team. Bullet Club Gold's backstage interview was interrupted by the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass, once again pitching they unite as the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. Austin Gunn seems open to trading the gun fingers for some scissor fingers. Samoa Joe came out to a huge reaction as his first in-ring promo as AEW World Champion. He explained there's a new way of getting title shots. No more whiny promos or social media posts. Cough, Jeff Hardy, cough! Instead, you submit your record to the Championship Committee. With no clear information on who that Championship Committee is though, everyone just came out to challenge Joe face to face. Swerve Strickland entered with his whole mogul embassy to be interrupted by Hangman Page, causing Strickland to walk away almost like he's a bit afraid of Page. Hangman got directly into Joe's face and said he's coming for that world title next. Much like MJF's reign, AEW are doing a great job of setting up multiple challenges for the top belt, as once Hangman and Swerve had left, we got another one in Hook, with a far superior win-loss record than someone like, I don't know, Jinder Mahal, entering for a stare down of his own. They'll fight on next Wednesday's Dynamite, which Excalibur announced on commentary. I would have had Joe announce that himself in the segment though, saying the committee had already approved it following Hook's Collision promo for the in-ring pop. Ahead of their tag title match at Battle of the Belts on Saturday, Ricky Starks took on He's a Babyface Again Sammy Guevara, which had a sudden end 10 minutes in. Sammy hit a super kick from out of nowhere and put on a technical pin to win. Ricky went to shake Sammy's hand afterwards, because Sammy's a babyface again, don't you know? Which was a very obvious ploy for Big Bill to attack Guevara from behind. In a stroke of production risk management genius, AEW then played Chris Jericho's music while Jericho ran down to make the save and never stopped it, making it impossible for anyone in Daly's Place to boo him, as the lyrics to Judas are just so fun to sing. Run away! It gave the segment a chaotic, wild thing from Anarchy in the Arena feel, providing a fiery go-home angle while papering over any negative feelings from the crowd. The second Brody Lee tribute match focused on his other protege, Anna Jay, who tagged in the babyface team with Thunder Rosa, Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander, with Stokely Hathaway still trying to be her manager, holding up a sign in the crowd, to take on the heels of Saraya, Ruby Soho, Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Willow Nightingale was worked over during the break, which set up an 8-woman suplex spot, the match breaking down and Anna Jay facing off against Hart, perhaps setting up a match there, and tapping out Sky Blue to win. Roderick Strong beat Brian Keith to build himself up for the International Championship, which is classic momentum-building booking, if it wasn't for the fact that Orange Cassidy is granting title shots to people who don't even ask. Perhaps there was an opportunity to put over this faction in a mega way early on. Just have Strong win the belt near immediately. Adam Cole cut a decent promo, rehashing the Undisputed Kingdom's strength and respect for each other afterwards, but it did feel like treading water when they should be escalating their faction's threat on the promotion of AEW. You could have had them come out in the Joe segment too, keeping them close to the world title picture, having them on more segments and explaining away why they aren't challenging immediately, with Cole laying out a stay of execution for Joe from Wardlow because they worked together to take out MJF. And the main event saw Sting and Darby Allin, accompanied by Ric Flair, take on the Callis families Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs in a brilliantly fun tornado tag that kicked off partying like it's 2010 TNA, immediately starting with Sting crowd brawling. The same week Impact is going to become TNA again? Sting to TNA confirmed. Sting took actual bumps, Ric Flair poked Hobbs in the eyes, while Allin and Takeshita continued their amazing chemistry from last week. The craziest spots were Allin's coffin drop off the bleachers, and Sting hitting a scorpion death drop on Hobbs off the stage, only going through one of the two tables. For a moment, Sting looked hurt, only able to make a very weak cover with the ringside doctor and Darby rushing over to check him. But he was able to get to his feet for the show's closing angle, revealing who his final opponent will be, a returning Young Bucks. Yes, Sting's final match isn't to put over Darby. Yes, the Bucks don't really have much obvious storyline or historic reasoning to wrestle his last ever match for now. But I quite like the idea that Darby never has to turn on Sting, a guy who's had every friend ever turn on him. And protecting Sting in a tag match against the Bucks will probably create the best possible wrestling he could go out on. And most importantly of all, the Bucks have mustaches now! Cue the mustache break! This week's Dynamite is at 80%, but AEW is in the news for the wrong reasons as well. Click the video on the left to find out about Tony Khan's Twitter meltdown about WWE.